Good morning, everyone. My name is Emma Lieber. I will be doing the professional development today. Our professional development today is going to focus on instructional techniques in literacy. We're really going to be focusing on three specific reading strategies and how those reading strategies can better help our adolescent learners become better readers in their disciplines. So I wanted to introduce what we're going to be talking about today. So on the board, we have the agenda for today. Our PowerPoint in itself is only going to be about 10 minutes, but we are going to make some pauses so you can also do some of the work and use some of those reading strategies as we're going along. At the end of the PowerPoint, you are going to have the option of replaying it so you can fill out the rest of your brainstorming reading strategy graphic organizer. So today we're going to start with the introduction. We're going to move into brainstorming, talk about knowledge mapping, talk about partner shares, then we'll have a quick closure. The objectives for today are you will analyze the reading strategies presented, and you will create new correlations between the information being presented and your classroom instruction. So really what the goal of today is to think about how you can apply these reading strategies to your teaching, to your everyday teaching. A lot of these three reading strategies are really, they sound big, but they can be done very quickly and very easily, really to address misconceptions and also just to strengthen our students' learning as they're reading before they read to really front load that information. Okay, at this point in the professional development, you are going to take about 2 minutes. You are going to fill out the confirming section in the graphic organizer. Um, in this section of the graphic organizer, this is where you're just going to jot, stop and jot about things you think you know about reading strategies, things you think you know about brainstorming, partner shares, and knowledge mapping. Um, I'll give you about 2 minutes to get that done. And then when you are done, we'll move on to the next slide. The first thing we really want to talk about is what are reading strategies? Reading strategies help students to develop and strengthen their reading comprehension. So reading strategies should be engaging. Reading strategies help students organize their ideas, and reading strategies are not a one size fits all model. So when I think about reading strategies in our adolescent learners, I think about what type of learner are they? Do they do they need to organize their thinking? Is that where they're lacking? Do they need to be pushed more to write more? Do they need to have more front loaded information because maybe they're an L learner? Do they need more accommodations because maybe they have some sort of learning disability that would enable them or stop them from being able to synthesize the information as quickly? Um, so when we think about reading strategies are really intended to help our students dig deeper into a text or into a textbook, um, and then strengthen those reading comprehension skills from there. Why are reading strategies important? I took this quote from the author of our textbook, Developing Readers in the Academic Disciplines. It reads, comprehension research suggests a different tact. Rather than expecting to build academic background through reading, we recalibrate our instruction to build academic background for reading. And I think this is very important idea as to why reading strategies are important and for us to think about the learners that we have in our classrooms. Specifically, when I think about all of my L learners that I have in my classrooms, they have a lack of background knowledge. So, in order for them to get the most out of reading, they need to have that background knowledge in order to read. When you think about vocabulary, when you think about just experiences like seeing snow, seeing different seasons, All of that stuff needs to be taught before we're reading the story, so then when they're reading the story, they can really understand. So front loading reading strategies for our students is a beneficial way to have them more engaged in the text when we start going through more of the higher level texts. The first reading strategy that we are going to talk about more in depthly is called confirming to extending. This is a reading strategy that correlates nicely with brainstorming. So this is a front loading reading strategy. This is something you can do with your students to ensure that they have the prior knowledge before reading a text. So they're going to really be able to organize their thoughts and ideas and then really dive into a deeper text. This type of reading strategy is really strong to use with adolescent learners because sometimes the texts that we're giving them are really dense. They're very discipline oriented. So this is a really good way of being able to break down some of that vocab and break down some of that heaviness of the text and see what our learners can do. So the first thing that we did as well is the confirming section. So in the confirming section, the students and you just quickly jotted down what you know. What do you know about reading strategies? What do our students know about the topics that is being presented to them? The next place they're going to go is the revising section. In the revising section, you revisit what you wrote in the confirming section and check off what you can confirm. So what information did I already know? That's correct. That's after your first cold read. The next thing you're going to do is the inquiring section. So you could really do the revising and inquiring section together, revising first and then the inquiring. In the inquiring section, you're going to generate 2 or 3 questions in relation to the topic, meaning you're going to, in your own mind or with a partner, come up with like maybe 2 or 3 questions that goes with the text that could be answered by the text, but that you don't know the answer to. It sounds complicated, but it doesn't. It isn't. The next way you're going to go is in the resolving section, and that is where you're going to be taking another dive into the text or the information being presented, and you are going to see if your questions were answered. If your questions weren't answered, we need to maybe pull out more texts, especially when we're thinking about our adolescent learners. If their questions weren't answered, okay, let's do a quick Google search. Okay, let's do this. Let's not take too much time away from the text, but let's make sure that their questions are being answered. I feel like that's a fair thing to do for our students. The last part of a brainstorming, confirming to extending reading strategy is going to be the extending section. So in this point, you're going to return to the text for a third read, and you're going to search for missing important information. Any information that you think is important that you didn't catch in the other 4 sections of the graphic organizer. So this extending section, I think, is really important to be able to push students to think outside of the box. So they had their quickly jotting down what they know. They had their questions that they generated by themselves. But what else? What else is there? Make sure that you're not missing anything in that text, which is a great skill to teach our adolescent learners, because it just lets them dig deeper into a text, and it doesn't have to be as teacher generated. Now we're going to look at 2 more reading strategies, one called knowledge mapping and the second called partner shares. Both of these reading strategies are strategies that help students front load the information. So again, thinking about how can we make sure that students have the information they need to be able to then decode the information that's being presented in the text. So the first one we're going to look at is knowledge mapping. Knowledge mapping is best done if they're in like a group or a partner setting. Knowledge mapping engages students in a concept map. So the picture that's on the slide is one that we can think of when we think of knowledge mapping. So what we would do is we would present the students with the main idea of the text that we're going to read, and then they're going to try to map out all of the different ideas they have about it. So, for example, from the text, they talked about feudalism. So that would be the concept that's being in the middle. And then the different shoots would be the different things that go with feudalism. This would be a good way for a teacher to be able to gauge what kind of prior knowledge the students have about a topic before going into that topic. So when I think about knowledge mapping, I think about maybe doing this at the introduction of a new unit. So if you're going to be starting a new unit on feudalism, you can have the students create a concept map either in a group or with a partner, and then see what they know and then go from there. It's a good way to do an informal assessment, and make sure that our learners have the prior knowledge in order to access what we're going to be learning in that unit. The next reading strategy that we have is called partner shares. Partner shares is pretty self-explanatory. So partner shares goal is to clarify, not just identify, understanding of prior learning. So this is really good way for our students to be able to use their language to talk with one another. So when I think about partner shares, I think about our L learners, or L students rather, and that the benefit of them being able to talk with one another about a topic. So when we're doing partner shares as a reading strategy for front loading, we don't want to have students just surface level talk or identify what they know. We really want students to talk with one another in a clarifying manner, instead of just an identifying manner. So deeply talk about it, get below the surface of the information being presented or shared. So we've reached the point in our professional development that I'm going to give you another, we'll give you about 4 minutes. And you're going to fill in the revising and the inquiring sections of the graphic organizer. So remember, the revising section was you're going back and you're looking at what you confirmed, meaning what you thought you knew about reading strategies. And then the inquiring section is where you're going to generate 2 or 3 questions that you think could be answered through the text. Lastly, I want us to really dig deep and think about this quote that came from our text that supports our professional development today. I will give you like 30 seconds to read it. I'm also going to read it for those of you that want to listen and not have to read at this moment. If disciplinary learning is to culminate in the creating of new knowledge, then instruction must extend beyond covering the content and engage students in activities that support comprehension. So sitting with this quote a little bit, if it's our job to create new knowledge, then our instruction has to extend beyond just covering content. We need to be able to engage students. We need to be able to ignite a fire inside of students that will support their comprehension. We can't just deliver the information and expect our students to be able to engage in it. It's our job to present our students with graphic organizers, with reading strategies that they can use and they can rely on to build their comprehension and build themselves up as learners. So after this slide, so I guess right now, you're going to have time to go fill in the resolving section of your graphic organizer. And then you can always have the option of playing back this professional development so that you can hear about any new knowledge being displayed, because that's the whole point of the resolving part of the graphic organizer. This is just the reference slide from the professional development, but I want to make sure that we give credit where credit is 100% due. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Um, Along with this, you have the one-page sheet that you can take with you, and I really would love to see the way you're applying this in your classrooms. Thank you.